Last year, Father's Day began as usual. I always woke up first. I never slept in, so I knew it would be a while before my 18-year-old wife and my 18 and 17-year-old daughters woke up and joined me. Every year on Mother's Day, I would make my wife a delicious breakfast with mimosas. For lunch, I would make her a cheese plate with cheese, fruit, and nuts, and a bottle of good white wine. For dinner, I would cook her favorite meal, grilled steak and baked potatoes, paired with a nice Cabernet Sauvignon. When the girls were little, they would help with breakfast and the obligatory serving of their mother. But as they grew older, I was left alone to spoil them. There was nothing special about it. My wife usually reciprocated by making me a special breakfast, although on Father's Day I would cook steaks for dinner. So, last year on Father's Day, I waited for my wife to wake up to make me breakfast, something she never does on any other day of the year. She doesn't know this, but I usually eat something light when I wake up around 6. I'll starve to death if I don't eat before she wakes up around 9, which is early for her on a weekend. When she woke up, she kissed me, wished me a happy Father's Day, and started making a special breakfast for the whole family. For lunch, we went to a small cafe with Doctor Who-themed sandwiches, and overall, the day went well. My wife is a slave to the calendar and knows all the important dates. She marks everything from holidays to the kids' events on a calendar that hangs on the side of the kitchen cabinet. All holidays, important events, school activities, half-days, etc. are written down on the calendar. Nothing is missed, except when I miss something, of course. The following year, when my wife was writing the dates on the calendar at the end of May, she said, "Hey Bill, your birthday falls on Father's Day this year." It wasn't the first time, so I wasn't surprised. I said, "Cool, don't save money and cheat me out of 2 gifts." Katie replied with a laugh, "You'll never leave me alone if you get cheated out of a present. This year, I have to do something special for you." I kissed her on the cheek and squeezed her butt as I left the kitchen. I hoped she meant something more than the annual birthday and Father's Day jokes. She started doing this to me when we were having sex regularly, but she never finished. It was usually part of foreplay, except for those 2 days when she, so to speak, finished the job. On my birthday and Father's Day, she did it to me very gently, expecting nothing in return. I usually responded in kind, making her feel very good when she did it. I wasn't a complete idiot. I was excited and thought that something more special was in store for me on the upcoming special day. The weeks leading up to my big day were strange in our house. My wife was acting strangely. She was staying late at work, snapping at me and the girls over little things and dressing up for work more often. She worked as a manager at the bakery in our local grocery store. She had never worn makeup before, but she started doing so at that time. She also wore a scarf over her clothes, which consisted of a white button-down shirt and pants. She left one button undone, which further emphasized her ample bosom. I started to have doubts when she left without me on the Friday before my birthday. We often went out with the main group of married couples, so she rarely went out with her friends alone. If someone was going out for a drink and invited her, she would tell me where she was going. That was again. I would pick her up. It wasn't that I was a tyrant and didn't let her do anything on her own. She always said she liked it better when I was with her. I liked that, and I thought our marriage was strong because of little things like that. For my part, I didn't do anything special without her outside our circle of friends either. It suited us. We weren't party animals and didn't drink much. For us, the perfect Friday night was just lying on the couch together and watching a couple of movies. So I was surprised to see her come down the stairs that Friday evening wearing a fancy dress. She had a new short skirt, flesh-colored stockings, and high-heeled shoes. It was obvious that she had been to a tanning salon and had her hair done. I whistled and asked, "Damn, honey, did I forget we had a date? Let me just get dressed quickly." "No, Bill. I'm going out with my coworkers. I thought you could order pizza for yourself since our girls are out too." I was shocked. She had never mentioned it, and it wasn't in her precious calendar. "Oh? You didn't tell me you had plans. I thought we were going to watch TV tonight." Fear appeared on her beautiful face, but then she pulled herself together and softened. "I'm sorry, honey. I was asked today." I looked her up and down and said, "So you found out today. But in the hour you spent at work before coming home, you bought a new skirt, went to the tanning salon, and got your hair done." I started to get angry. She was lying to me, but I couldn't prove it. I couldn't believe she could cheat on me. It wasn't in her nature. She was the epitome of the perfect suburban wife and mother. Our sex life was wonderful. We still made love several times a week. She had no reason to cheat on me. She said, I worked half a day today. I wanted to look nice for a change. Before I could say anything, she slipped out the door without another word, leaving me wondering what the hell had happened. I waited for her, and she came home just before midnight. Her hair was no longer loose but tied back in her usual ponytail. That was all that was left of her hairstyle. She walked past me without saying a word and went upstairs. A few minutes later, I heard the shower turn on. I just shook my head, wondering what she had done to need a shower before bed. She didn't come down to wish me good night before going to bed. I realized that something was wrong in my perfect little world and wondered how bad it was. I work in retail, so I was at work on Saturday morning. Usually, when I was getting ready for work, she would wake up and kiss me goodbye before going back to bed. That morning, I got nothing. I was shocked again. When I got to the store, I saw Missy waiting for me at the front door. Missy was the morning barista at the coffee shop in our big store. She was a pretty red-haired girl with striking blue eyes. Even though I was happily married, I couldn't help but notice her. I've always liked redheads. Hi, Bill, she said as I approached the entrance. The door was still locked as the store didn't open for another half hour. The guys from the night shift could have let her in, but she had told me before that she didn't feel comfortable staying in the store alone with a bunch of guys. Good morning, Missy, I said, opening the door for her. Something wrong, Bill? You look like someone killed you. Sorry, I've got a lot to do today. She gave me a strange look but didn't pursue the matter. Give me a couple of minutes and I'll get you a cup of our best coffee. I forced a smile and said, Sounds good. See you soon. I closed the door and she hurried to prepare coffee for the morning rush. I knew she would be very busy once the shop opened. Our little cafe was always packed in the mornings. As I walked through the hall, I checked on the employees in their departments to see how they were doing. I always made a point of walking through all the departments in the morning. It wasn't necessary as I had a very good team of managers, but it gave me a chance to say hello and chat. I felt it was important to maintain good relationships with my team members, and I think they appreciated my efforts. My last stop was the coffee shop, where Missy was already waiting for me with a large cup of black coffee. Here you go, boss. 1 cup of Megamart's best. Thanks, Missy. I put $2 on the counter. No, Bill. He's home today. No way, Missy. I pay for everything here. I don't need anyone getting mad at me and calling headquarters to report me. She sighed. Bill, I would never. I'm not talking about you, Missy. I can't take that risk even for a $2 cup of coffee. You'd be surprised what I have to deal with if I deny someone a day off or cut their overtime. It's just not smart. Okay, boss. I understand. I waved goodbye and took a sip from my mug. I'm sure some employees get free coffee from time to time. It's impossible to keep track of, and why bother? Too much work for cheap coffee. I can't imagine watching videos for hours to make sure everyone paid. It was different for me. Being the head of a company was risky. Employees would get upset over the smallest things. I was called into HR for enforcing parking rules. Seriously, getting called into HR for parking in the courtyard? It's just ridiculous. The day ended and went pretty smoothly. What upset me the most was an old woman who stole cat and bird food. It was exactly the day I needed. I was busy enough not to dwell on new problems with my wife, but not so busy that I couldn't get all my chores done. When I entered the house, my wife and daughters were already getting ready to leave. I was surprised for a moment, but then I looked at the calendar. Bye, Dad, my daughters said, kissing me on the cheek. My loving wife said nothing. They were going to a concert with other mothers and daughters. It had been planned for a long time and marked on the calendar, but I had forgotten, as usual. I hoped I would have a chance to talk to Katie and find out what was going on. I didn't like not knowing what she had been doing last night. After not thinking about it all day, all I could do was think about it in the evening. I took advantage of this opportunity to entertain myself a little. I checked her email, but realized that wouldn't work, and it didn't. No one else had sent any emails. She had a cell phone, so I couldn't check her messages or call log. I went to the laundry basket to check her clothes from the night before, but since it was Saturday, she had already done her laundry. I didn't have time for anything, so after watching a movie, I went to bed feeling no better than before. Waking up on my birthday and Father's Day, I started the day as usual. I ate a couple of slices of toast, drank my coffee, and sat on the patio to enjoy the morning. It was a beautiful day, and I enjoyed the birds singing and wondered what this special day had in store for me. Around 9, I went inside to pour myself some coffee and was surprised to see that my wife and daughters were already up and getting lunch ready. "What's going on?" I asked, wondering why they hadn't told me to get ready and go somewhere. My daughter Jill said, "We're going to the beach." "Oh, I see," I said and went upstairs to get dressed for the trip to the lake. As I was putting on my shirt, I heard my daughter Jenny shout, "Bye, Dad. See you later." The door slammed and I looked out the window and saw my wife and daughters driving away. I couldn't believe it. I didn't expect the girls to remember my birthday, since I had reminded them about their mother's birthday and Mother's Day, but I couldn't understand why Katie hadn't remembered. I was walking down the stairs when I heard my cell phone ring. I rushed to the phone, hoping they had realized and were going to tell me they had come back for me, but no, it was my mom. "Hi, Billy. Happy birthday and happy Father's Day." "Thanks, Mom. Did Katie have anything planned for today?" "No. She took the girls to the beach a few minutes ago." "Really? That's not like her. I bet she's cooking you a delicious breakfast and making it a special day for you." "Yeah, to be honest, I don't know what's going on. She's been acting strange for a few weeks now." "Well, don't worry about it. I'm sure she's got something special planned for later. I've got to get to church. Love you, Billy." "I love you, Mom." You should have loved my mom. She was an eternal optimist and loved Kathy like her own daughter. They had visited each other regularly since my father died a few years ago. Kathy wanted my mom to feel less lonely. I stood there wondering what the hell was going on in my marriage when the phone rang again. It was my assistant, Anne. "Bill, there's been an incident at the cafe this morning." "What happened?" "Missy was standing on the stairs when a customer bumped into her. She lost her balance and fell." "My God, is she okay?" "She was taken to St. Nate, Alex's hospital for an x-ray. She may have broken her arm or something." "Damn, poor girl, are you on shift?" "Yes, everything's ready. I just didn't want you to be caught off guard tomorrow. Sorry to bother you on Father's Day." "Don't worry, Anne. Thanks for calling." I hoped Missy would be all right. I pottered around the house, then, deciding they weren't coming back, went to IHOP for breakfast. That turned out to be a mistake, considering my mood. The wait was long, and there were families everywhere. Happy families celebrating fathers and grandfathers. I left before I started crying. I went to McDonald's and had a hearty breakfast of coffee and orange juice. The pancakes were surprisingly good, and I sat in the park eating with a plastic fork and knife. I looked at the small lake where I used to take my girls boating when they were little. They loved the water. Swimming, boating, or even fishing. They loved everything about the lake. When they got older and were about to go to college, they lost interest in fishing. And looking back, I think they lost interest in spending time with me in general. In those days, all their outings were with their mother. That was probably the right thing. Shopping with their father would have been a chore for a young girl, I'm sure. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, there was no word from my wife. I could only assume that we wouldn't be having dinner together. I went into the Doctor Who cafe and ordered a Reuben sandwich. I'm sure the name had something to do with the TV series, like the Reuben Dalek Revolution, or something like that. Being a 40-year-old man who has no idea what's in fashion and what's not, I took a picture of the sandwich and posted it on Facebook. I received the usual likes and Father's Day greetings from friends and acquaintances. Oddly enough, my mother-in-law wrote that she thought I was at the beach with my wife and daughters. Apparently, my wife had posted photos from the beach on Facebook. I finished my sandwich and headed to a sports bar near my house. I hadn't watched a game in a long time, so I decided to drown my sorrows in Miller Lite. The bar was crowded, and I wasn't in the mood, so I headed to the cigar lounge next door and treated myself to a $60 Opus X. Happy birthday to me. I sat down at a table, turned on the Sox game, and a couple of guys playing cards invited me to join them. "I'm Bill," I introduced myself to the older gentleman. "I'm Lance, and this is my brother Jerry. Nice to meet you." They finished and let me join their 5-card game. "Help yourself, Bill," Lance said, putting the cooler on the floor. I thanked him and grabbed a Miller Lite. "No kids? Or did the ex leave them with their new husband?" Jerry asked with a smirk. I frowned and replied, "My wife and daughters are at the beach. I guess they don't know what day it is." "That's too bad," Lance added. "I don't see my boys very often. They're both in the military." Jerry nodded and said, "My daughter lives in California. My grandson, Charlie, just turned 2. I'm going there next week." "That's great," I said. When my girls turned 17 and 18, I started missing the little ones running around. They both nodded in understanding. After some small talk, we somehow got back to the subject of my wife. Do you think she really doesn't notice, or is she deliberately avoiding you? Jerry asked. It was a great question, one I had been pondering myself. I told them about the last few weeks, right up to Friday's problems, and they shook their heads. She's cheating on you, Lance said. Jerry nodded in agreement. I can't believe that, I said. But as soon as I said it, I knew it was the only explanation that made sense, and I tried to convince myself it wasn't true. Listen, Bill, Lance said. I've been through this before. Changes in behavior, sudden late-night outings in revealing outfits, disrespect. I've been through it, buddy. My wife did it a couple of times with a coworker, and when I found out, I divorced her. It was the biggest mistake of my life. What? I snapped. She cheated on you. How could divorcing her be a mistake? In my opinion, there can be no excuses. Cheating is the end of a marriage, plain and simple. Period. End of story. Bill, I was broke for 5 years paying her alimony and supporting the kids. I missed her every damn day, loved her from my lonely apartment across town while she was alone in my house. Maybe she cheated on me, but at the time I was too arrogant to forgive her. 7 years have passed, but we got back together when I got my head out of my ass. Now we're happy. God, I said, giving her body to another man is the greatest insult and disrespect my wife could ever do to me. If what you're saying is true and she's having an affair, then either she's so caught up in her lover that she forgot my birthday, or she's deliberately ignoring me. Either way, it's unacceptable. Lance shook his head. Bill, trust me. If you really love her, find a way to forgive her. You'll be better off in the long run. 40-year-old men don't get second chances in love. Thanks, Lance. You've given me a lot to think about. I may have said that, but what I was really thinking was how crazy he was. There was no way I could forgive her for cheating on me, and there was no way I could stay married to her. I shook both men's hands, wished them well, and left. As I sat on the couch scrolling through Facebook, it was almost dinner time. I saw posts from my daughters and wife with photos of their happy day, and I felt even more depressed. To hell with it, I thought. I had to pull myself together and stop acting like a lost child. My wife forgot my birthday. These things happen. She forgot Father's Day. So what? What mattered was that I was sure she had cheated on me Friday night and had probably been acting strange for the past few weeks. Making her admit it was her ultimate goal. Well, she had achieved it. It was time to prepare for the rest of my life. I decided to have dinner at my favorite restaurant. I knew I'd have to wait a long time, but that was okay. I had nothing else to do. So I took a shower, put on a sports jacket and slacks, and headed out for a steak. I was sitting at the bar of the steakhouse waiting for a table when an older man sat down next to me. He saw my bottle of champagne with a single glass and frowned. Fortunately, he didn't say anything and just ordered a martini. While the bartender was filling my glass, the man couldn't resist asking, "Are you celebrating alone, or did I take someone else's seat?" "No," I replied. "It's fine, I'm here alone." He nodded and took a sip. He must have been a salesman because he couldn't sit still. He said, "Yes, I'm waiting for 3 generations of Red Fury. My wife is helping our daughter, who broke her arm today. She doesn't seem to like having to do everything with her left hand." He laughed and continued, "You don't expect grown children to break bones. I thought those days were behind us." I agreed with him and nodded. "Looks like I'll have to cook for myself for a few weeks. My wife is taking care of Missy and Mia and leaving me alone." I looked up. "What did you say?" Before he could answer, a little girl's voice rang out from the other end of the room. "Grandpa!" And she rushed across the crowded bar. A little bundle of red curls jumped onto his lap and showered the man with hugs and kisses. A moment later, I heard, "Bill!" I turned and saw Missy and, as I realized, her mother standing next to me. Her mother was the spitting image of her daughter. Except for a few wrinkles around her eyes, they were identical. "Hi, Missy. How's your arm?" "It's fine. I'm on strong painkillers, so I don't feel anything. Although it hurt a lot when they put it in." Missy introduced me to her parents, Jack and Mary, and then to her adorable little daughter, Mia. "Where's your wife, Bill?" she asked. "I don't know. She took the girls to the beach this morning, and I haven't heard from them all day." "Really? On Father's Day?" "Worse than that. It's also my birthday." "My goodness, she abandoned you on the best day of the year? What's wrong with her?" I didn't want to go into details and say more than necessary, so I shrugged. "Well, forget about her. Join us, Mary said firmly. I understood what Jack meant when he talked about his anger. I don't forget about it, Bill. You don't want them to turn against you. It's not nice, Jack said with a smirk that betrayed his years of experience dealing with them. But it's your day, Jack. I don't want to get involved. Nonsense, he said. It's our day. Grandpa, you said, I know, Pumpkin. I used a bad word. Grandma will punish me later. Dad. He winked at me as the bell rang at their table. Pay up, Bill, and come join us at our table. No charge. He said it in the tone of a drill instructor. He dropped a 20 on the counter and backed away. Sorry, Bill. My parents can be thick-headed. Don't worry about it, Missy. I think it's better than eating alone. The conversation over dinner was light. Bill and I told stories about how our daughters were growing up, and Mia asked a lot of questions. She giggled constantly at funny stories about her mother as a child. After dinner, my phone rang. I saw that it was my wife, ignored the call, and put the phone on the table. Your wife? Mary asked. Yes. It's more than you think, isn't it? Missy asked. I think so, but I don't have any proof. Bill, all people make mistakes, Mary said, looking straight at Jack. Maybe you can find a way to forgive her. Missy looked up and stared at Mary. I waved to the waiter and handed him my credit card. Well, I've ruined your meeting enough. Thanks for inviting me to lunch. Bill, No, Jack. It was an honor to have lunch with you, and especially with one of my favorite employees, my treat. Happy Father's Day. I shook their hands and walked over to the waiter's stand to sign the bill. I didn't even have any solid proof that she had cheated on me, but I had already heard two opinions that I should forgive her. What is wrong with people? The phone rang again and again, but I ignored it. I pulled into the garage and was greeted by two whirling dervishes who showered me with kisses and hugs, apologizing for abandoning me on Father's Day. Girls, don't worry about it. I don't expect you to remember when my birthday is. Is it your birthday? Jill shouted. Then she ran into the house, yelling at my wife. Dad, we didn't know. I'm sorry, she sobbed, clinging to my chest. You must hate us. No, sweetheart. I love you more than life itself. When she suggested going to the beach today last night, we immediately agreed. We didn't think, honey, it's okay, don't worry. I'm not mad at you. I didn't tell her I was mad at her mother, but that was my problem, not my daughter's. Let's go inside. I walked through the kitchen, ignoring my wife's crying and my daughter's yelling, and went upstairs to change. After putting on shorts and a t-shirt, I returned to the battle zone and found my wife sobbing alone. I'm sorry, she muttered. I shook my head and went out onto the patio with a beer and a cigar. It was a beautiful night, and I was enjoying the quiet, thinking about work instead of my wife, when the sliding door opened. Bill, What's his name? I interrupted her. I didn't look at her, and she didn't take a step back onto the terrace. Bill, what's his name? The man you slept with on Friday. My anger grew. I heard the door close, but she didn't come out. She didn't deny it. Then I knew I was going to see a divorce lawyer. Nearly 20 years of marriage gone. What a stupid woman I had married. At that moment, I began to think the worst. How long had she been cheating on me? Was he her first? Did I know him? Were these girls even mine? It's amazing what negative thoughts come into your head when you're treated so badly. I decided to demand a paternity test for the girls as part of the divorce. It would not only be for my peace of mind, but also to humiliate Katie. I spent the rest of the night researching divorce laws online, then fell asleep on the couch. That's how I spent my birthday. I woke up at 5 in the morning. Katie was sleeping in my bedroom, curled up on my pillow. It was funny how calm she looked, unlike me, who had slept poorly. She was so beautiful. It was a shame she wasn't mine anymore. I would miss her body. I gathered everything I needed and took a quick shower. I managed to leave without waking her, but Jill was waiting for me in the hallway. How bad is it, Dad? I sighed. As bad as it can be. Can you forgive her? After all, it's just one day of forgetfulness. Honey, she didn't just forget my birthday or Father's Day. She cheated on me. She sighed. No, Dad, she wouldn't do that. She was forced to do it, but I can't accept that. Think about it. She's been acting strange for the last few weeks. On Friday night, after the tanning salon and the hair salon, she left the house dressed like a whore. That's definitely not for me. She shook her head. Oh, honey, she avoided me all day Saturday and Sunday. She was clearly feeling guilty or resentful toward me and didn't want to be around me. When else has she ever taken you to the beach without me? It's always been a family outing. What if it wasn't an affair? What if it was just a one-time fling? Can't you forgive her just this once? I doubt that's true, honey, but look at everything she did. Did she act like she loved me even once over the weekend? Dad, you didn't see her face when Grandma called her and asked why she hadn't called Grandpa to wish him a happy Father's Day. She hung up and screamed no so loud we thought Grandpa was having a heart attack or something. He, he's fine, Dad. Mom was crying on her knees until we picked her up and sat her on the couch. She kept saying she loved you. To be honest, Jenny wanted to call an ambulance for her. She thought she was having a nervous breakdown. We calmed her down and convinced her to call you. Jill, I don't know what you want me to say. She doesn't love me. You can't love your spouse and cheat on them. That's not love, that's selfishness. Love has to be selfless. When she got involved with another man, she rejected me. She hugged me and cried. I'm guessing this wasn't some random guy she picked up at a bar. She must have flirted with him or responded to his advances. Before they had sex, there were probably intimate touches, maybe kissing and caressing. All of these actions leading up to sex are a betrayal of your spouse. You can't love one person and be intimate with another. Please don't divorce her. I have to go to work. We'll talk later. She went into Jenny's room. I would definitely tell her what we had talked about. There would be no more secrets in our family. I wondered how long we would remain a family. I knew Katie would be too busy at work to call or text me, so I was calm for most of the day. The only thing that made this day not quite ordinary was filling out corporate forms related to Missy's accident. She had been paid for her time off, and I hoped she wouldn't be too upset. I knew nothing about her personal life except that she wasn't married. She came in to sign the paperwork and fill out the accident report. I wrote it for her because she's not very good with her left hand, and she signed it. How are things at home?" she asked. Not great. She didn't deny it when I told her about her affair. Damn, Bill, I'm so sorry. I'm sure you don't want to know my whole life story, but I understand how you feel. My ex-husband cheated on me when I was pregnant. I kicked him out of the house before my daughter was born. My mom was furious. She practically called me trash. God, I thought it was strange when your mom said last night that she forgave my wife. She was looking right at your father when she said it. Yeah, I noticed that too. I don't know who, but I think one of them was cheating. I'm so sorry. Don't be. They seem happy. Let them live their lives. I prefer never to trust liars. Me too, I replied firmly. When I got home from work, Katie wasn't there. She was probably having sex with her lover, and I was furious. I got in my car and drove 2 miles to her grocery store. I saw her car in the parking lot, and to my surprise, saw her sitting in it with a young man. When I stopped in front of her car, she saw me and screamed, "No!" She opened the door, but I managed to jump out. If she was going to cheat on me, he could have her. I'd had enough. I drove home and ran upstairs to pack my things. I planned to stay in a hotel until I found an apartment. Before I knew it, Jenny and Jill were crying and begging me to stay. I'm sorry, girls, but your mom was about to cheat on me when I caught her. She was in the car with some guy when I pulled up. Dad, this must be some kind of mistake. Girls, I know what I saw. There was a man in her car. Why would she stay after work and take a man with her if she wasn't going anywhere with him? She can't say they were just having lunch. There's no innocent explanation for her sitting in the back of a parking lot after work with a man in her car. Dad, please don't destroy our family, Jenny sobbed. Honey, your mother destroyed our family. It's not my fault. I hugged them and kissed them on the cheeks. I love you, girls. I'll call you every day. I left them crying in their bedroom and went to the garage. As I was pulling out of the garage, I was almost hit by Katie, who was speeding by. I shook my head and drove on. The next week was hell. I didn't answer my wife's calls, and for the first 3 days, she called me every hour. She must have taken a week off work because she couldn't call from the store and was at the construction site all day. She left me countless messages asking me to call her back. I deleted every single one. After those 3 days, my mother-in-law, both daughters and sister Katie begged me to talk to her. They all said it wasn't as bad as I thought, but every time I asked them if she had cheated on me, they didn't answer. They all knew she had. They just didn't want to admit it. I stopped answering the phone. I told my daughters that I would talk to them, but not to mention their mother. I had to hang up twice before they believed I was serious. At the end of the week, I met with a lawyer. I just wanted to split the house in half. She could keep the house until the girls moved out. Then we would sell it. The lawyer said I could get more than half of the proceeds since my down payment and monthly payments were more than Katie's, but I told him to just split it evenly. I thought alimony or child support was a done deal, but it turns out that since my wife makes enough to support herself, I don't have to pay her anything. That was the best news I've heard in a long time. I don't have to pay her for sleeping with her lover. The only downside was that I had no proof of her infidelity. The judge could have refused to grant it and reduced the amount to irreconcilable differences, and I would have had to prove that we had tried to save the relationship. I decided to take the risk. My lawyer prepared to file for divorce, and life went on. There was no mandatory mediation or counseling. There were no lawsuits for loss of love. There were no protracted arguments. The division was fair, and any judge could have seen that even with their eyes closed. But nothing came easy. All she could do was fight. When she was served, she unleashed another barrage of accusations from her family. It turned out that she had only done it once with a guy on the Friday before my birthday, or had convinced everyone that she had. I was called a bad guy because I didn't let her explain everything, as if any explanation would have been acceptable. My mother mostly called me a weakling because I didn't fight for my marriage. My mother-in-law told me we were even because I also broke my vow by not staying with her during the most difficult times. My daughters told me I had to stay in the family because our divorce would leave them with lifelong scars. It was unreal. I hadn't done anything wrong, but I was being blamed for the divorce. It got to the point where I asked my daughters to give saliva samples for a DNA test. They refused until I lied to them and said it was a court order. Katie wrote me a letter that was sent to my shop. I read it, and it said that she was addicted to the attention she was getting from the child. I say child because this bastard was only 21 years old. They slept together only once in the back seat of his car, and he was a complete non-entity sexually. As if the fact that he was a loser was supposed to make the situation any better? She also told me that when I caught her in the car with this guy, I told him in private to never talk to her again. It didn't matter. She had cheated on me once, and that was enough. The best part was that since she gave me the letter herself, I didn't have to prove her infidelity in court. She did it herself. That meant I didn't have to file for incompatibility and prove that we had tried to work things out. Karma was finally on my side. She tried to fight the divorce, but when the judge saw the terms I had proposed in her letter confirming her infidelity, he approved the divorce. In 60 days, I would be divorced. And so I found myself alone on an island of devastation. I was called immature and a jerk for refusing to talk to her. It got to the point where my mother and daughters stopped talking to me. It hurt, but I was on the side of justice, and if they didn't like it, so be it. I called my daughters every day. They didn't answer, but I left voice messages telling them what was going on with me and asking how they were doing. I didn't let them blame me for the lack of communication. I kept trying and reaching out to them, whether they wanted it or not. One of the changes was that I started having coffee with Missy on Sundays. It started innocently enough when we ran into each other at a local cafe. She and Mia lived next door and were out for a walk. I invited them to join me and told them about my misadventures while Mia watched cartoons on my iPad. "I'm sure your daughters will change their minds, Bill," she said. "They're young, impressionable, and they live with your wife. Who knows what nonsense she's put in their heads? I hope you're right. I just hope they haven't gone too far. I miss them very much." The next week, I went to the same cafe at the same time and was reading when I heard, "Hello, stranger." I smiled and invited them to join me again. "Is this okay with you, or are you stalking me?" she asked with a smile. "No, I live nearby and like to have a cup of coffee and read on Sunday mornings. I'm lonely at home, so I come here." She took a sip from her cup, and we chatted about the neighborhood until it was time to leave. We didn't plan to meet every Sunday, but that's how it turned out. I enjoyed her company, and little Mia was simply adorable. On the day the divorce was finalized, I knocked on the door of my old house. My wife opened the door and I could see she had been crying. She didn't say a word, just invited me in. "Are the girls home?" I asked. "They're at school watching a musical. I know why you're here. I was waiting for you tonight." "Really?" I asked with a smirk. "You waited until it was too late to stop this, didn't you?" "Yes," I said. "I knew you would beg, plead, try to make up, and I couldn't let that happen. You broke my heart, and I can't forgive you." "Damn it, Bill, it was one time, one mistake. Why can't you forgive me? Why couldn't you find a way to stay with me? Didn't you love me as much as I loved you all these years?" I laughed. You loved me when you were flirting with that jerk. Did you love me when you avoided me all weekend and left me alone on my birthday? If that's your idea of love, there's no hope for you. I never wanted this to happen, she sobbed. I never wanted my wife to be a cheater, but here we are, face to face. She choked up and started to speak, but I cut her off. Katie, you not only broke my heart, but you turned my mother and daughters against me. I will never forgive you for that. It's your fault for acting so foolishly. I got angry and said, if you don't make my mother and daughters apologize to me and fix this situation, I'll tell all the men you date that you're a cheating slut. I'll try to ruin all your future relationships because you ruined mine. I don't need anyone else. Wrong answer. Looks like I'll have to find other ways to hurt you and disgrace you. I stood up to leave and she grabbed my arm. It's not my fault, you can't blame me. Oh no? Did I cheat on you? I don't think so. You know what's really disgusting? You're letting your daughters grow up believing that cheating on your husband is okay. Because of your behavior, they'll grow up believing that you're a saint and I'm a sinner, and that it's okay because it was just once. So screw it. I'm not going to get upset over some jerk making you feel sexy. I pulled her hand away from mine and said, burn in hell for ruining our marriage. I was just making love to you, you idiot. I left her crying and felt no guilt. A few weeks later, Missy knocked on my office door. Bill, can I talk to you for a minute? Sure, come in. I frowned when she closed the door, expecting something bad to happen. Bill, is there a company policy against dating other employees? I hated it when she asked me that. I had hoped I could ask her out on a date. Looks like I was too late. No. We have a strict policy against sexual harassment. The policy protects pretty much everything that could be harmed by a bad relationship between coworkers. And if two people can't work together after a breakup, that's on them, not the company. Okay, that's exactly what I was hoping for, she said, placing a folded piece of paper on my desk. What's this? I asked. My address and phone number. I'd love to see you tomorrow night for dinner. Mia will be there too. I smiled and agreed. Okay, you're a good man, Bill. You deserve happiness, and I want to give you a second chance. She skipped out of my office, and I eagerly awaited our dinner date. Hi, it's Dad. Hope you and your sister are doing well. Everything is the same here except that a woman from work asked me out to dinner. Anyway, I love you and miss you. Please call me. Bye. I knew that message would cause some problems, but I didn't care. I needed to move on with my life, and I was glad that Missy took it as calmly as she had before. Missy was a wonderful woman with an even more wonderful personality. Her daughter was very well-mannered and charming, and I had already met her parents. I felt like I was finally getting ahead in life. It was only 15 minutes later when Katie texted me. I can't believe you're already seeing someone. You're such a bastard. I laughed when I read it. I never realized how deluded she was. To think that I would sit around and agonize over her was insane. Maybe some men would mourn the loss of a marriage to a cheating wife, but that wasn't me. At 41, I was young enough to find love again. Hell, I was young enough to have more children if I wanted to. It was worth thinking about. Missy was in her early 30s. She might want more children. I knew it was too early for such thoughts, but as a single mother, Missy probably put those things at the top of her list of potential husbands. I was sure she was looking for a husband, not a toy. Although, of course, I wouldn't have minded being her toy. I hadn't done that in months. The next evening, I took a shower, shaved after work, and put on something casual. Looking in the mirror, I was pleased with what I saw. I was in good shape without any extra pounds or love handles. I had thick brown hair with no gray showing yet. I had a great job with a good salary and money in the bank. I considered myself a good catch for any woman, let alone someone as young as Missy. And then I realized I had no idea how to date anyone. When you're married, you're always together and you know everything about each other. There's no problem holding hands or kissing. When you come home after a night out, you know sex is just around the corner. The status quo was comfortable. My God, I had to relearn how to have sex. I knew every spot on my ex-wife's body that gave her pleasure. I could only hope that the next woman I had sex with would enjoy it as much, or at least that we would have a good relationship. I was afraid I wasn't ready to date and regretted getting into the game so quickly. I knocked on her door with a bottle of wine, flowers, and a stuffed animal. I decided it wouldn't hurt to win Mia over. When she opened the door, I was stunned by what I saw. Her curly red hair fell over her shoulders and her makeup was applied in just the right amount. She was wearing a loose summer dress that ended about 10 inches above her knees, showing off her beautiful legs. She was barefoot, and her toenails were painted a bright pink to match her manicure. She laughed and asked, "Did I pass the test?" "God, yes," I said, unable to take my words back. She laughed even louder and took the flowers and wine from me. "Mia is watching TV. Go say hi to her. She'll love the teddy bear." She went into the kitchen and I knelt down next to Mia. "Hi, sweetie. I brought you a teddy bear." She looked at me warily, then lit up the room with her smile. She reached out for the teddy bear and as soon as she had it, ran to show Missy. It reminded me of Jenny and Jill at the same age. I realized how long it had been since we'd talked to them, and I missed them even more. "Well, what's wrong?" Missy asked, pulling me out of my thoughts. I forced a smile and replied, "Nothing, just remembering when my daughters were Mia's age." "Is it that bad?" she asked. "They still won't talk to me. Katie turned them against me and I can't change their minds, but I'm still trying. I leave them messages every day and I'm not going to stop." "I'm so sorry, Bill. I know this must be awful for you." "Every day. But I know they listen to my messages. I told them about our date tonight. And Katie texted me that I'm a jerk for getting so forward. I'm sorry, but that's not too forward, is it?" She bit her lip and looked damn cute when she did it. "Maybe," I replied honestly. "But I'd love to find out with you." She smiled and took my hand. "Dinner's ready. I hope you like pasta with meat sauce." "Sounds great. I have garlic bread, so you can get ready for us to make out on the couch afterwards." Mia giggled, and I stood there in shock that Missy was being so forward. She noticed my confusion and said, "Bill, we're both adults, and I've known you for 3 years. I know what kind of person you are, and it doesn't take long to realize that I really like you. You're going to be hot property soon, and I want to stake my claim as early as possible." "Hot property?" I asked. "Yes, you have no idea what a stir the news of your divorce caused in the store. Darling, your appearance on the market, so to speak, has attracted the attention of many unmarried ladies. You are a handsome man in good shape, intelligent, stable, and we all know how you feel about fidelity." When I sat down at her table, I didn't feel awkward. "So I'll be first in line," she concluded. I took her hand and squeezed it. "I like you too." Mia, not wanting to be left out, said, "Squid is my favorite dish." "I love sketty too. The fattier, the better," I said. Seeing a jar of Parmesan on the table, I added, "You must have some really stinky cheese." She giggled and replied, "It's not stinky cheese, it's Parm." "Parm? Stinky cheese," I said, bringing the jar to my nose and imagining it was the worst smell in the world. "Ugh, that really is stinky cheese." Missy shook her head when I passed the jar to Mia. She sniffed it, shrugged, and sprinkled it generously on her spaghetti. We continued our casual conversation over dinner. I asked Mia about her preschool class and her friends. She eagerly told me everything she could remember. I really enjoyed the conversation. After a while, I noticed that Missy had fallen silent. She was smiling broadly and just watching my daughter and me exchange phrases. Finally, she started clearing the plates and I said, "Let me help you." "Oh no, she hasn't told you about her favorite TV shows yet?" She laughed as Mia began telling me about all the best children's shows. After putting Mia to bed, Missy came back and sat down next to me on the couch. I handed her a glass of wine, and she put her feet up on the ottoman with a satisfied sigh. "I love being a mom, but sometimes this is the best part of my day." Instinctively, I put my arm around her. As she snuggled up to me, I said, "It's even worse with two." "Of course it is. Do you think your girls will understand eventually?" "I hope so," I replied thoughtfully. "I'm doing everything I can, but it's still too fresh for them." She turned and kissed me on the cheek. "You're a great father. Just don't stop fighting for them." She put down her glass and leaned back in her chair. "Bill, I've told you I like you a lot, and I'm too old to play games. I want to continue seeing you, and that includes an invitation to my bedroom." I was about to tell her that we didn't need to do that, but she raised her finger. "I know you want to be a gentleman and all that, but you don't have to. I want to say that I don't want to be your girlfriend who you sleep with, or a friend with benefits. I'm warning you that I want an exclusive relationship. I have a daughter to think about, and to be honest, she needs a dad just as much as I need a husband." I tried to speak again, but was rejected once more. Usually, conversations like this end with the guy getting up and running away. "I don't think you're like that, but I'm giving you a way out. If you want to live on the loose and enjoy the single life, I'm not your girl. If you want to see if we have a chance at a long life together, I'm your woman." "Wow," I said. "Did you prepare that speech in advance, or are you improvising?" She frowned, misreading my feelings. "Miss, as you said yourself, we've known each other for 3 years through work. We've been drinking coffee together for the last few weeks, and I really enjoy it. I'm a family man, and always have been. I don't know how to be single, and the thought of dating scares me to death. If my wife hadn't spread her legs, I'd still be a happy family man. No, I don't want to play this game." She smiled and took my hand. I continued. "You're beautiful, smart, and you make great spaghetti." She laughed and playfully slapped me on the shoulder. "I want to be your boyfriend. Consider me part of something good for all of us, including your little girl." We didn't make love that night. As much as I wanted to take her right there on the couch, I decided it was better not to rush things. She had practically confessed her love for me and was very excited, so I decided it was better for my comfort not to rush things. I received a gift from the gods when I was sent an application for a manager position. I never found out the name of the little shit who ruined my marriage, and I never got to get revenge on him. But when he showed up for the night manager interview, I recognized him right away. I knew he wouldn't recognize me, but he might know my name, so I asked Anne to interview him and hire him on the spot. On his second night on the job, I waited for him in the parking lot until he finished his shift. I walked up to his 90s car and placed a 40-inch TV I had bought from a competitor on the back seat. We had the same model, and I happened to know that one of them was available. In the morning, I timed it so that I would arrive at the end of his shift. I walked him to his car, chatting about what he thought of his coworkers. When we got to the car, I noticed the TV in the back seat and pretended to be surprised. "Jeff, did you buy a TV before your shift? We're not open yet." "No, Bill, it's not mine. I don't know how it got there." "Jeff, I think we need to go back to the store." "Bill, you have to believe me. Check the cameras." I shook my head and said, "Okay, bring the TV." We went back to the store and the guy was scared to death. At one point, I thought he was going to cry. We didn't have night security because the night shift worked after the store closed, so there was no need for it. There were cameras everywhere, and there was only one place where they could be turned off. Only the managers had the key to that room. The camera was pointed at the door to the room, but it was above the door to the stairwell. I mentioned this to security a few years ago, but they never fixed it. So I easily opened the door to the stairwell, walked over, and covered the camera with a piece of black tape. After that, I disabled the CCTV system. More precisely, I turned off the computer that controlled the system. When I brought him into the room and he saw that the computer wasn't working, he panicked and started repeating that he was innocent, and I called the police as required. In the end, the guy was found guilty of a misdemeanor and didn't get any jail time. I was hoping he'd get a couple of months, but the TV wasn't that expensive. He had to do a lot of community service and pay a fine, which, oddly enough, ended up being more than I paid for the TV. With a criminal record, he'll have a hard time finding a job in retail. I was glad about that, but it still wasn't worth the risk I took. The company beefed up security by installing cameras in the parking lot. It was long overdue. He was so stupid that he never figured out it was me. He tried to blame the team for setting him up, but he couldn't prove anything. When I fired him, no one missed him. On a cold Saturday morning, a week after dinner with Missy, I saw her waiting in her car to keep warm. When I parked next to her, she came over and kissed me. "Are we still going out to dinner tonight?" she asked. "Of course." "Good. I'm cooking something special for us. You won't want to miss it." "I don't—" "Is that the whore?" Katie interrupted. "Excuse me," Missy shouted, releasing her grip on my arm. "Katie, what do you want?" I asked, getting annoyed. "I've been trying to call you. Did you block my number?" "Yes. After 30 messages about what a bastard I am for still being alive, I gave up. What do you want?" "I want to talk about the girls. We need to figure out college. They can go wherever they want. I've taken care of the money for them. I'd like to be involved, but since you turned them against me, they won't talk to me. They're afraid you won't pay for their education." "Of course I'll pay. I still love them, even though I lost them in the divorce because you couldn't keep your legs together." Missy laughed. Katie glared at her and said, "It's not my fault you couldn't forgive me for one mistake." "Oh? One mistake? It was only once because you were insensitive. I dealt with you right away." "That doesn't matter. You're still supposed to be my husband. We're still supposed to be a family. You're delusional." You cost me my marriage, my family, my daughters, and my mother. I swear you better never date another man if I find out. You'll never get a second date. No one will want to date a fickle slut, except those who know about your reputation and are looking for easy sex. I turned and walked toward the store. I heard shouting behind me, and when I turned around, I saw Missy pinning Katie against the car and poking her in the face with her finger. Stay away from my man, bitch. You drove him away and I picked him up. I ran over and pulled her away. Stop it, Missy, she's not worth the trouble. You heard her, bitch, Katie shouted, turning and walking toward the store. Please go, Katie, it's over between us and it's your fault. Only yours. I left her sobbing by the car. I caught up with Missy, who was gasping for breath, and took her by the hand. She looked up, smiled at me, and slowed her pace. I'm sorry, Bill. I guess I was just jealous. Oh no, I like it when women fight for me in parking lots. It boosts my self-esteem. We laughed and went inside to go about our business. Later that morning, my mother called. When I answered, she mumbled, Billy, She didn't finish, and I heard a thud. But the phone didn't disconnect. I hung up and called back, but no one answered. I called 911 to get an ambulance, but they told me the call had already come from her house. I feared the worst and asked Ann to take my place since I had to leave. She understood, and as I ran through the store, I bumped into Missy, who called after me. I ignored her and ran straight to my car. When I arrived at my mother's house, the ambulance was already leaving, so I followed it. When I got to the back door, I found that she had left before the ambulance even got to the hospital. She must have lost consciousness while we were talking on the phone. I sat in the emergency room lobby and cried. I sat there alone and thought about the last words my mother had said to me. What did she mean? Maybe, I'm in trouble, I'm having a heart attack, I'm so sorry. The phone rang and it was Missy. Hi, my mom just died. Oh, Bill. I'm so sorry. Yes, thank you. I'm afraid I won't be good company today. No, I'll be with you. You need me. Please let me come. Okay, yes, I said. I didn't want to be alone, and I was glad she agreed to be with me. I'm on my way home. I'll meet you there when you get out. Okay, see you soon. I ended the call and walked to my car. Instead of driving home, I drove to my old house. I needed to tell the girls whether they wanted to see me or not. When I pulled up to the house, I saw both girls' cars in the driveway inside. I had no idea that the first words we would say to each other would be such news. Ignoring the fact that I no longer lived there, I entered the code for the garage door and went inside. Katie's car wasn't there, and I was glad. I don't think I was in the right state of mind to see her. The living room and kitchen were empty, so I went upstairs to the bedrooms. Dad, Jill called as I entered her room. What do you want? Jenny shouted, following me in. Did you come to ask for something? Well, you can go. Grandma died of a heart attack this morning, I interrupted her. They both gasped. I just thought I should tell you in person. Now I'm going to hell. I left and closed the door behind me. I heard Jenny yell for me to wait, but I ran to my car and drove away. I drove to the small lake where I had spent so many happy moments with the girls. It was too cold for boating, but the ice was starting to melt and the water was very calm. I sat down on a picnic bench and cried again. This time I cried not only for my mother, but also for the loss of my daughters. The anger in Jenny's voice told me that I wasn't needed in her life. She didn't need to tell me to go to hell. Her tone said it all. I wondered if I had made a mistake somewhere along the way, not with Katie, but with the girls. What had I done to make them hate me so much? Katie had destroyed our marriage. Why couldn't my daughters understand that? I don't know how long I sat there, but I heard someone approaching. I turned around. It was Katie and the girls. How did you find me here? I asked, turning back toward the lake. You didn't turn off the sync on our Find My Phone app, Katie said. Bill, I'm so sorry about your mom. Yeah? I growled. Are you sorry she died, or that you turned her against me and she died without ever making peace with me? She remained silent. Leave me alone. I can't listen to your nonsense right now, I continued. I'll never forgive you for what you did to me. The last time we spoke, she said she wouldn't talk to me until I came to my senses and called off the divorce. She didn't even say she loved me when she hung up. I'm so sorry, Bill, for everything. I heard her leave, and Jenny said, Dad, we're sorry too. We're sorry for being such bitches. I turned around and they both rushed over to hug me. We cried in each other's arms for what seemed like forever. Girls, this isn't my fault. Why can't you understand that what your mother did caused us to break up? We're sorry, Dad, Jill said. We just thought you had to forgive her. She loves you. It's so obvious. Not enough to be faithful to me, Jill. I'm so sorry, girls. I'm so sorry. We hugged again, and Katie watched us from the warmth of the car. Girls, I need you so much. You're leaving for college soon, and I'm going to miss you. We're wasting so much time. We understand, Dad, Jenny said. We won't push you away anymore, Jill added. I wish your grandmother had been able to do the same. Dad, can we go with you? We haven't seen your new house yet. Maybe we can order pizza? Sure, tell Mom and let's go. When I pulled up to the house, I saw Missy's car. I had forgotten she was coming. Girls, I think you're going to meet Missy. Is she your girlfriend? They asked in unison, making me laugh. Yeah, well, we just started dating. Look how he blushed, Jenny. It's so cute. They jumped out of the car and were at Missy's door in a flash. They bombarded her with questions, and I could see that Missy had no idea what was going on. Girls, leave her alone. Bring her inside. I'll introduce you all. They kissed me on the cheek and disappeared into the garage, and I walked over to a stunned Missy. I'm sorry, I said when she opened the door. She smiled radiantly and kissed me on the cheek. Are those your daughters? Yeah. Come on, I'll introduce you properly. I wish I knew, honey. I probably look terrible. I laughed and replied, You look fine. They'll love you. Jenny, Jill, meet Missy. They hugged. Jenny, as usual, said it cheekily, You're super pretty. Jill jumped up and said, Good for you, Daddy. Missy laughed, and I was too stunned to say anything. Hey, let's take a quick look around the house, and then I need to take care of some things for Grandma's funeral. Bill, I'll order pizza while you look around. Sounds good, honey. You read my mind. Oh, the girls chirped. I shook my head, and Missy smiled. I decided to wait until morning to call and tell them about Mom. On Monday, I would write an obituary for the newspaper, and on Sunday, after visiting the funeral home, I would post the details of the ceremony on Facebook. After dinner, we sat and told Missy stories about my mother for hours. My girls, not entirely innocently, added a few embarrassing stories about me to make it more interesting for Missy. It wasn't my fault that the pier was wet and I fell into the lake, I swear. Not noticing how time had flown by, I looked at my watch. It was already 10. Girls, time is running out and I'm late. They frowned and asked, Can we stay the night? I don't have any guest beds yet. Let's do this. I'll pick you up in the morning and we'll go out for breakfast, okay? If you don't mind, I need some help deciding what to do with Grandma's things. Sure, Dad. We'll help if you need it. Thanks, Missy. Want a ride? Or do you need to go to Mia's? She's staying with my parents. Jill jumped up. Who's Mia? Mia is my 4-year-old daughter. Both girls squealed, and Jenny said, Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see her. Missy laughed at their excitement and said, Soon, I promise. Okay, let's go. They're wonderful girls, Missy said as we sat down on the couch shortly after returning to my house. I'm glad you were able to reconnect with them. I sighed. Me too. It's just a shame it took my mom's death to do it. She snuggled up to me, and I fell asleep with my arms around her. When I woke up into the morning, she had covered us with a blanket and was still snuggled up against me. I missed being that close to someone. I kissed her on the top of her head and said, I'm sorry I fell asleep on you. She murmured, stretching. It's okay, sweetie. You had a very emotional day. Would you like to have breakfast with us and the girls? Only if I can bring Mia. My parents have plans for this morning. Of course. My daughters would love to see her. Since we had to pick up Mia, I asked my daughters to meet us at IHOP. When I walked in, holding Mia's hand, the girls rushed over to her. Within seconds, Mia was in their arms, being spun around, tickled, and covered with kisses. All the while, she squealed and giggled with a big smile on her face until she shouted, I have to go to the bathroom. The girls said in unison, We'll take her, and ran to the bathroom. I don't know, miss. Do you think they'll get along? I asked with a smile. 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 She playfully patted me on the shoulder and kissed me on the cheek. I hope it stays that way, she said. She was looking for a long-term relationship, and technically, we had only been on one date. It was a little nerve-wracking, but I was confident I could handle these feelings. While we ate, Mia and my daughters chatted non-stop about everything under the sun. I could tell by the look in her eyes that Mia loved to talk, and not just about herself. She asked so many questions about my daughter's lives that I think even they were surprised. My daughters worked as babysitters for our neighbors, so they were great with young children. They knew all the popular children's shows and movies, and Mia was thrilled. They also got along great with Missy. When they met, there was no hostility or anger, which struck me as odd. After the divorce, they refused to talk to me for months, but as soon as they met my new girlfriend, they became best friends? I didn't understand it and had to ask the girls to explain. After dozens of phone calls, beginning the long process of cleaning out my mother's house and visiting the funeral home, I was finally able to sit down and relax. The girls came back to me for dinner, and Missy and Mia left after breakfast. Missy decided it would be too emotional for us and wanted to avoid the awkwardness of Mia asking questions about everything while we were sorting through things at my mom's house. "Dad, are you in love with Missy?" Jenny asked unexpectedly. "We've only seen each other a couple of times outside of work. It's too early to talk about love." "Come on, Dad," Jill said, as if I were an idiot. "You've seen the old cartoons where girls open their eyes wide and press their palms to their cheeks when they look at their prince." I nodded, taking a bite of pizza. "Well, when she looks at you and bats her eyes, her heart is practically in her head," Jill said. Before I could deny that I liked her, they looked at each other, turned to me, and said, "We like her." I went from being thrilled to see my daughters to being angry. I threw my slice on my plate, wiped my hands, and walked to the sink. Leaning against the counter, I tried to calm down. "Dad," Jenny asked, "girls, how could you break my heart all this time and now sit here and say you like my girlfriend? What did I do to you that you think it's okay to push me away? To ignore me? To tell me to get the hell out when I see you for the first time in my life? What did I do? Do you know how many times I cried leaving you messages that I knew you didn't want to receive? Mom made us." "What?" I exclaimed. Jill replied, "It all started when Mom told us that if you thought you were losing us, you should come back to her and we'd be a family again. I'm sorry." I turned around and Jenny, seeing a tear on my cheek, rushed to hug me. "Dad, we're so sorry. After things didn't work out, she told us that you left us and wouldn't pay for college because we wanted you to stay with her. She told us that your messages were just a ploy you used during the divorce to look like a good guy and get the judge on your side." "And you believe that? Dad, how would you have reacted if you had sat with her day after day and listened to her justify her one mistake with 20 years of love? We thought you were being unreasonable. What about me? Would you have let your boyfriend cheat on you?" I didn't know what to say. "Where's the line?" I asked firmly. "1, 2, 5, answer me." They started crying, and we hugged. Their hugs calmed me down immediately, and I felt terrible. "I'm sorry, girls, I missed you so much." After each of them confessed their love for me, I said, "It's time to take you home. You have school tomorrow. Don't forget to ask your mom to tell them about the memorial service and the funeral. You'll need some time off this week." We hugged again, and I watched them drive away with warmth in my heart. I looked up at the sky and said, "You shouldn't have come after the girls, Mom, but thank you. I'll miss you." Saying goodbye to the dead is hard for me because I always feel uncomfortable sitting in a room with a dead person's body. Saying goodbye to my mom was especially hard. Throughout the day, I went to the coffin several times and looked at her. She looked peaceful. I was glad she would see Dad again. He had died of cancer a few years earlier. He wanted his funeral to be unusual, without a wake. Like me, he thought it was strange that people interacted with a corpse. My mother had thought everything through. I guess you start thinking about these things as you get older. She even chose her coffin. All I had to do was set the date and time and take care of the details, such as preparing the room and the ceremony. I was glad she had done all that. I was standing at the front of the room talking to one of her friends when Katie and my daughters came in. My daughters hugged me, tears streaming down their faces, and Katie gratefully left me alone. After saying a prayer, Katie placed something in the coffin and walked to the back of the room, where she sat down alone. I looked at what she had placed there and saw a photograph of Katie and me embracing my mother. She was holding our children in her arms, and she had a big smile on her face. I took the photograph she had hidden and reverently placed it next to her hands. That day, I cried for the first time. Later, the priest wanted to begin the memorial service. Katie never got up from her seat at the back of the hall. She drew everyone to her. You can't be part of a family for as many years as she was married and not know people. And they all loved her. Protocol dictated that the immediate family should sit in the front row. My daughters were sitting to my right and Misty was on my left, but it didn't feel right. I stood up and turned around. I saw Katie still standing at the back of the room, wiping away her tears. It didn't feel right. My mom wouldn't have wanted this. Katie was as much her daughter as she was my wife. I walked to the back of the room. Everyone was sitting, waiting for the ceremony to begin, and they noticed me and started to follow me. I reached out my hand to Katie. Come here. You don't need to hide here. She started to sob and hugged me. Letting go of me, she whispered, Thank you. We walked to the front of the hall, and my Uncle John gave her his seat next to my daughter. You're a good man, Bill, Missy whispered, kissing me on the cheek. Holding Missy's hand while my ex-wife was only a few feet away from me was the strangest feeling of my life. I prayed that I wouldn't regret it later and that there wouldn't be any problems with them. As the day drew to a close, I said goodbye to the last guests, and then Katie came up to me. With Missy standing nearby, I wondered how Katie would behave. I hoped that out of respect for my mother, she wouldn't start an argument. Bill, thank you for inviting me into your family today. It means more to me than you can imagine. She loved you like a daughter, and you did the right thing. Oh, that reminds me. If you want, you can ride with us and the girls in the limo tomorrow. She hugged me and cried. I felt Missy's hand on my waist and was afraid that a fight was about to start. Well, said Katie, letting go of me, if you don't want anything from me, I'm going home. I shook my head, and she smiled briefly at Missy. I'm glad you're here for him. You may not know this, but he was a mama's boy. It's going to be very hard for him when she leaves. With that, she turned and left the room. Missy hugged me from all sides and said, Let's go home. I threw my keys in the locker and headed for the kitchen, glad the day was over. Missy was sitting at the table and took a cold beer from me. I think things with Katie turned out better than you expected. You handled it well, she said as I enjoyed my cold Sam Adams. Yeah, I'm glad. I really thought she was going to hook up with you. Well, I'm sure the girls helped. We just need to get through tomorrow and everything will be fine. I hope she was right. I don't know why I had this uneasy feeling that Katie wouldn't be able to handle Missy. Maybe I was just being paranoid. Are you staying the night? I asked. She smiled and took my hand. You couldn't kick me out even if you wanted to. We didn't make love, but she held me close and I slept more soundly than I had since the divorce. You watch me like a hawk. I'm not going to abuse your gift by arguing, Kathy said as we waited for the service to begin. I know, I lied. It just bothers me. She snorted and asked, How do you think I feel? I'm an outcast here. A whore, I frowned. No one thinks that about you, especially not today. I'm sorry, Bill. I wish this had never happened. I wish... She started crying and rushed to the bathroom. This is hard for all of us, Bill, my mother's friend Jean said, patting me on the shoulder. Your mom was a wonderful woman and we'll all miss her. I kissed her on the cheek and thanked her, glad that Katie had moved my mother to tears. After the funeral, we sat down at a table at my mother's favorite Polish restaurant. The place was packed, and Katie looked around awkwardly for a free seat. I went back to her and took her by the hand, leading her to the table where Missy and my daughters were sitting. Katie, we'll always be family despite the divorce. No matter where we sit, you'll always be a welcome guest here. A tear rolled down her cheek as she sat down and thanked me. I don't know when I got through it, but I felt like I had finally let go of the pain she had caused me. Life went on. The girls went to college and talked to me on Skype every week. Missy and I are still together, and I'm almost ready to propose to her. Katie and I don't talk often, but when we do, it's warm. She's also getting her life together and is dating the divorced father of one of the girls' friends. He's a good guy, and I hope things work out for them. Some people will say that I should have forgiven her for that one mistake, but I just can't do it. Maybe some people think I'm a bad person, but I can live with that. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for the next video.